The occasional podcast. The top 10 best speakers for 2026. The occasional podcast. The top 10 best speakers. The top 10.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Marc and Brian once again on the show. This time you've tuned into our top 10 best loudspeakers.
See, you can't even say it straight.
I know, it's really...
I was practicing this. Top 10 best, awesome, super duper loudspeakers.
Cheapest to most expensive. Mark, how are you these days? You're just back still from a lot of travel abroad. If you guys haven't had an opportunity to check out the coverage on the site for the Mighty Munich show. What? Actually, the Mighty Vienna show this year.
Munich. I haven't been to Munich since 2024, man. If you notice, I got the big neck beard thing going on just because I ain't got to be nowhere for 5 months, not until Capital Audio Fest. I'm going to stay home and grow this beard and review stuff. And that's my plans for the summer of 2026. Thank you.
That sounds like really great plans. I have two plans this summer. One, review gear. Two, to grow a beard. Today's episode of the Occasional Podcast is sponsored by VAC, the Valve Amplification Company. Since 1990, VAC has been handcrafting the world's finest amplifiers and preamplifiers exclusively in the United States. Utilizing vacuum tubes, the most linear amplifying devices in existence, VAC provides sonic transcendence. When it comes to musical truth, it has to be VAC. On the web at vac-amps.com. This episode of the Occasional Podcast is brought to you by AudioQuest. All AudioQuest products, from the company's most modest parts to its most ambitious works of art, are thoughtfully designed to deliver outstanding performance and exceptional value, regardless of price. No matter how little or how much you invest, AudioQuest is made for you. Explore AudioQuest's award-winning cables, power products, and accessories at audioquest.com.
I hadn't planned on traveling as much as I did this year, but I did. So there you go. I was in Vienna and I was in Japan right before that. And then I was in Chicago and then Florida and I don't know, a bunch of other places. They're still talking about people want me to go to Greece, and I may go to Greece, but we'll see. We'll see, because it's been a long...
Strange trip?
Well, the year's only half over, and it's been a lot of miles in 2026.
So if you get a chance, don't forget to check out all the Vienna 2026 coverage up on the pt.AUDIO site. We have videos going up on the YouTube channel, and you can follow us, of course, on all of the social medias, really. But we got a lot of Facebook video going up as well, and reviews. Is the coverage for Vienna complete, or we still got a couple of posts to go?
Let's see. I will probably wrap it up in the next 5 days, maybe 5 days, by this weekend.
And of course, our mighty reviews. You can check out all of the Vienna coverage, room-to-room impressions, and best of sounds from Mark himself last episode. So we covered that, obviously face to pseudo face here on the podcast, but we also, of course, have the pictures, the written words, and impressions and best of show on the site as well. So don't forget to check that out. I don't know if we have anything else upcoming. Like I said, it's beard growing season, it's summer, and there's a lot of more reviews to come. What are you most excited about for the rest of the year, Mark, so far?
There is a review that I've been working on for some time that's actually coming out at the end of this weekend, and it is for the Audio Note UK Maishu Concertmeister Integrated Amplifier 300B. It's amazing. There are 3 things that I reviewed this year that, they completely blew my mind. I was able to listen to them together, and there was Audio Emir speakers, and the Hana Umami Black phono cartridge, and this Audio Note UK Concertmeister integrated amplifier. And those 3 things together just were amazing. And that was when I was running around to Japan and running around to Expo and doing all this stuff. And I was like, all I want to go home is listen to this system because that's how good it was. And it's like, that's what it's about. None of this other stuff. I just want to sit here and listen to these 3 things forever.
What do you think is the big takeaway about synergy? Do you believe in synergy? Do you think that products sound good together? Or do you feel that if a product's really good, it stands alone on its own, and you would just take the 3 or 4 best products that sound good by themselves and put them together? Or is it possible 3 different products that don't sound as good separately sound better together?
Well, first I'll say that there are some products that actually make everything sound better that they're associated with. And I found that with the Vinny Rossi, the Gen 2 Brahma integrated amplifier, that didn't even matter what the rest of the system was. It was like it was in such good hands with the Vinny. Everything just sounded at its best. With the system, with the 3 things I just mentioned, though, we're talking about high efficiency horn speaker, which still sounds good with some power, but with an 8 watt per channel 300B amplifier and an $11,500 cartridge. So these are things that are not common. There was possibly a degree in difference in how each one of those 3 things influenced the rest of the system. In other words, like if I put one in, left the other 2 out, how would that compare? What's the percentage that I would actually lose in quality than if I had all 3 in the system at the same time? And that was the best thing I could come up with. And the one that actually struck me was the Hanu Umami Black cartridge, which couldn't be bothered. It was indestructible. It sounded great and was unbelievable every step of the way. That really impressed me. But all 3 of them, it's hard to say because that combination was magical.
Of all the stuff that you've had in the review center over there, what do you think is the best combination that you've heard so far in your mind?
I get to apexes where it's just like, it's a pinnacle, and sometimes it goes up and down. And you were talking about synergy between components. Well, that kind of brings up the other thing about long-term loans in this industry and why they're actually needed is because if I have something that doesn't work that I'm not excited about, I try it with a couple different combinations with different types of amplifiers, different efficiencies of speakers, twos versus solid state, or vinyl versus digital, and all this stuff. And you have to kind of try everything first because it is important. Synergy is absolutely important in a system. There are certain things that just sound better. There are some certain speakers that, despite their numbers, will not sound good with a tube amplifier for some reason. I've run into those before. There's unknown variables in there, but that's what it's all about. Is for me as a reviewer, it's something coming in and me finding a home for it, finding something that works well with, and then going from there. And I think that's how I review that. So that answers your first question.
Now, we're heading off to our top 10 best speakers, cheapest to most expensive. I'm giving it a thumb up. I love all these speakers, man.
This was last year winner or the year before for the best bookshelf speaker of the year. And it's the DeVore Fidelity Micro, the little one that's a perfect cube. And for me, when I had this one in my system, it was no longer about the numbers. It was no longer about how deep it went. It was just about how emotional you would get listening, how you feel joy and you feel sadness and everything. And I just couldn't avoid it. And for me, that was one of the things that really stood out for me. I mean, when you're talking about two-way bookshelves, often you're really concerned with, how much bass am I going to get? Is it going to be enough? No, it doesn't matter. It simply doesn't matter because everything sounds like music through these things. And so for me, that's where it starts. $39.50 is a lot of money for a lot of people for basically, I think it's a 10-inch cube. But I'm telling you, this is the entryway into great speakerdom. And DeVore Fidelity, been a fan for a long time, but the little micro is his smallest speaker, just really have knocked me out consistently over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the DeVore speakers. I was very happy to see them. I love the 096s, not on the list, but the 096s have been around for a little bit of a while. But yeah, the 096 would be the flagship floor standards from the same line. Now, number 2, Mark.
This one is a weird one because I keep trying to tell people about the speaker, and I've done 2 separate reviews on it just to remind people because it's not available in the US yet. They don't have a distributor. Somebody's got to start distributing these speakers because they're amazing. This is the Alexandria Audio The Monitor. Very simple name. It's The Monitor. $6,500 a pair. And one of the things that make these speakers great is that they're so kind of against the grain of what we think about two-ways. For one thing, they're slightly larger than most two-ways. It's an 8-inch two-way. It's a pretty big box, yet it's really light. You pick it up and you're thinking, what's in here? This speaker should be a little bit more substantial than this, and blah, blah, blah. Unless you're with the BBC speakers where it's all about cabinet resonances, that's why they're light. So this is a light speaker, but one of the interesting things about it is that it's 91 dB, but it's a very easy drive. I've been able to use this consistently as my backup speaker for all the 300Bs. This speaker that is just so surprising. It's made in Indonesia, in Bali, Indonesia. And the driver's from SB Acoustics, which is an Indonesia speaker driver manufacturer that actually their drivers get used a lot in this industry. So if you ever hear about a Indonesian speaker driver, you're going to know it's the SB Acoustics one. This speaker, the monitor, uses those, but it's such a big sounding speaker. It's big and it's well balanced and it's smooth and it works really great with low powered SET amplifiers. I'm glad I have them around. I do utilize them a lot in my daily reviewing chores because they're so good at what they do.
If you're not too familiar with the way things work on the back end, there are just a couple of major manufacturers across the world, some based in Norway. But there are two major speaker manufacturers that help out a lot of these speakers that we like on the high end. Every once in a while, you'll come across the completely custom driver. But for the most part, Mark, would you say that most speakers are made from the two major manufacturers across the world?
I'm at ScanSpeak and
Sayas.
Percentage-wise, when I started reviewing some time ago, I was really surprised at how few manufacturers made their own speaker drivers. For some reason, in my young days, I always kind of thought that everybody made their own drivers, and they obviously don't. And now it seems to be going back to where I'm dealing with more and more companies that are making their own drivers from scratch. So, I mean, like I've spent a lot of time with YG Acoustics, and they make their drivers from a solid billet of aluminum. I mean, they just machine it down until it's a driver. So it's a mix now. But I think it would be 80% of the speaker companies out there. Well, I think the biggest thing to look at between the two by doing that, by going to Sayas or ScanSpeak, is that are you taking something off the shelf, off the rack, you're ordering out of catalog and getting it and sticking it in a speaker enclosure? Or, which more people are doing, is having custom drivers made to their specs. And I think that's kind of that middle ground where most of the speaker manufacturers lie, where they're not making their own drivers. They want a custom driver that's a version that nobody else gets. And I think that's more of the norm these days.
Number 3.
This is last year's winner for best bookshelf speaker. This is the Acora Acoustics MRB1s, which is their smallest speaker. Their little granite gem. It's $8,000 a pair, which is, for the sound you get, is a bargain, stone cold bargain. And these little cubes, tiny cubes, weigh 50 pounds a piece. So they're surprisingly heavy. And then I put them on the Acora stands that I've had for years. These little monitors and these little stand weigh more than most grown men. So it's a very heavy, made from granite. But these little speakers with their Accuton ceramic drivers can just fill a room, energize a really big room with sound like no other small speaker. They're classic little speaker that sound huge. I mean, it's a cliche, of course, but they do. They sound just amazing. I've heard them in big open spaces at hi-fi shows and hotels and lobbies and stuff where they're drowning out everybody with these little speakers. But that doesn't mean that that's all they do. They're very refined. They're very musical, and they really respond well to expensive amplification. And they're pretty easy to drive. I have been able to have some success with 300Bs. They're not all that. They do have limitations, but the Acora MRB, I've had that really good sound from them in a 300B amplifier, which is 10 watts per channel. So that would be my number 3. That's probably the newest addition to this list, too.
Designed and handcrafted in France since 1985, JMF Audio builds a complete ecosystem of reference-grade amplification, preamplification, phono stages, power line filtering, and cables, all engineered with a singular focus, precision, to guarantee the desired musicality and expression for all genres of music. JMF Audio components are known for their fully balanced dual mono architectures, high current power delivery, and meticulous hand assembly, resulting in systems that prioritize signal integrity and long-term listening satisfaction over trend cycles or constant model turnover. Each piece is built to exacting standards with proprietary technologies and materials developed through decades of experience in both recording studio and high-end audio environments. The holistic approach of JMF Audio has led to solutions that are intended for listeners who want to stop chasing equipment and start focusing on the music. Tired of audio reviews that sound like they were written by robots? Us too. For the last 15 years, Part-Time Audiophile has been an open revolt against boring. And this year, we're doubling down. We have a brand new look and a brand new name, but the same old attitude. Find us at pt.AUDIO for all your turntable throwdowns and amplifier face-offs. Great sound meets good times at pt.AUDIO. Number 4?
This is an old favorite, and actually the last two, I kind of think about which one is the greatest bookshelf speaker that I've ever heard. And it's been a few years for both of them, but my time spent with these two speakers were so illuminating and so rewarding. And both speakers are big two-way floor standers, but they don't sound like a small speaker that's trying to be big, that's trying to convince you it's bigger than it is by shouting a little louder, by going a little deeper than it should maybe. These are speakers that naturally sound like big speakers and do everything. So the first one is the Wimberg Amaya. And the Wimberg, of course, for those of you who know about Wimberg, this is the more affordable line from Tidal Audio, and in many ways, I feel that Tidal Audio makes my absolute favorite speakers in the world. For me, they're perfect. And the Wimberg, this is a two-way monitor. They run about $19,000 a pair. There's a lot of different options and finishes. But the thing about the Amayas is that you don't hear compromises in this design. You don't hear any other two-way that sounds this full and this impressive and this relaxed and open and huge and musical and everything. They're warm as well. When I heard them, I had declared these are the greatest two-way monitors I've ever heard until number 5 came along, which well, that's the thing is I don't know which one's better because I'd have to hear them both side by side, and that, I don't like to do comparisons like that. 5th one on the list, I actually had almost the same identical response to it. And this is the QLN reference monitors, which are big, massive monitors that sit on a custom stand, and they run for $22,000. And we're all big fans of QLN. And I'll have to say, with this last buyer's guide, I had to remove some of the QLN speakers from the buyer's guide, which broke my heart every time, basically because they're coming out with new versions of everything, and I've been hearing some of the newer ones. So the reference, however, stays the same. It is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's massive. And it sounds like a big speaker. It sounds like a floor stander. Close your eyes. You're not going to be able to tell. It's a little bit warmer. Of the two speakers, the Wimberg and the QLN is a little bit warmer, a little softer, a little richer, but it doesn't matter. It would be a wonderful life spent with either one of these two monitors for the rest of my life. And that's the way I feel.
Yeah, I have had the opportunity to review a couple QLN speakers, and I think my takeaway from that experience was exactly what you said. Even though it is quite a cliche, it fits in this idea so well. It's such a big sounding speaker for the size that you wouldn't tell. If you close your eyes and you sit there and you listen, it's almost indistinguishable from a floor stander, and probably better than like 90% of the floor standers out there. Very well done. Two-way bookshelf that I've reviewed. Is the QLN reference a two-way or a three-way?
Two-way. But
two-way,
in Vienna, I heard a new QLN three-way reference. Smaller one. I forgot what it was called, but it's going to be about $30,000 a pair. Amazing stuff from QLN.
Yeah, they do a great job. So that is ultimately the top 2, like as you said, the top 2 bookshelf speakers. But the list goes on, and the list goes on to...
We're doing floor standards now, damn it. The Credo EV1202. Yeah, Credo EV1202 for $16,995. I really like Credo of Switzerland a lot. I know Michael Kraske. I visited him in Switzerland, went and heard. But there's these speakers, and they're called the EV1202s. They're $17,000 a pair. They're tall and thin speakers. Diapolito, it's a woofer, tweeter, woofer. They don't look... I mean, I don't want to say they look special. The fit and finish is amazing, but they're very simple looking speaker, just a tall, thin tower. And they just sound so huge and they're warm and they go really deep. But these speakers, these EV1202s, when I talk about the best speakers I've ever heard versus the ones I'd actually like to own in my own house with my own system when nobody's watching, that's where this EV1202 comes in, because every time I sit down and listen to these speakers, They are just so rewarding and they're so perfect. It was like I designed them for myself if I had the ability to do so, because their priorities are my priorities. Fantastic speaker. Number 7 would be the YG Acoustics Carmel 3. And the reason why these are so special to me, I've reviewed 3 pairs of YG speakers. I started with the big Sony 3.2s, 99,000 a pair. They were perfect except for they were 320 pounds each. And it's like, so I really couldn't move them around myself, which is a dumb reason not to like. I love the speaker. And then I went down the line to the Talus, which is the head of their Peaks thing. So that's their more affordable line. Still 19,000 a pair. Really good speakers. Love those a lot. Except for $20,000, these are really impressive speakers. And then it was a Goldilocks time. The perfect one came in between. It's the Carmel 3, which is their smallest model in their reference line. It's a real thin two-way tower. It's been around for a long time. This is the 3rd version. And you know what? This is another case of me saying, this is the perfect speaker for me, my priorities, what I want from a speaker. I want something that's easy to listen to. I like two ways because they're coherent. And yet the YG with its solid aluminum billeted enclosure, it just reached really deep into the bass. It sounded huge. These are the most surprising speakers. From the first time I heard them, probably 15, 20 years ago, I just said, it's amazing that so much bass comes out of these thin little towers, but it's so much more than that. It's a really complete speaker in so many ways, and it will fit in most rooms. So that gives it a little bit extra cachet as a desirable loudspeaker in this industry.
And number 8.
Oh my gosh, this one's a dream. This one is in an alternate universe. I have this speaker with the 300B amplifier of my choice, and that is the Songer Audio S2. These are beautiful field coil speakers. I love field coil speakers. I'm learning more and more that field coil speakers and 300V amplifiers are my jam. And so this particular one, this was the one that the Songer, beautiful masterpiece, beautiful sculpture. It's $49,000 a pair, but it is a work of art. They're works of art and they sound so beautiful. The minute I plug them in and turn them on, I just started laughing to myself like, oh my God, this is so good. This is everything I've ever wanted. Like I said, they're so beautiful. Every time I see Songer Audio at a hi-fi show, I stop in here because the sound is so addictive. If you're a single-ended triode person, you have to try them with Songer Audio field coil speakers because it changed the way I looked at audio in a way. And I've heard other models of Songers too, and I think they have a lot of the same magic. I wouldn't be able to say, oh, it's just this one. All the Songer Audio field coil speakers are just amazing, amazing transducers. Just to say Songer Audio makes me smile. That's how good they are.
Number 9.
Here's the newest one to the list, and these I just reviewed. I reviewed between Expona and Vienna, basically. Brand new. They debuted at Expona. And these are the Audio Emirs. And this is their new flagship, $65,000 a pair. It's a big two-way horn speaker, a big compression horn, and a 12-inch woofer. Beautifully finished, gorgeous. And the surprising thing about them is that even though they just kind of came up chest high to me, they're 260 pounds a piece because they have a huge 10 centimeter thick, not centimeter, millimeter, 10 centimeter would be thick. 10 millimeter thick stainless steel baffle that curves around to the bottom and becomes part of the base to stick it to the ground. So this is heavy, but these things, they're high efficiency with 8 watt per channel Concertmeister from Audio Note. It was just Tool Fest and System of a Down Fest and Mars Volta Fest and Mahler Fest and anything I wanted, because with 8 watts per channel, I was getting all the control, the volume and the deep bass and the thunder and the lightning and everything you need from this stuff with 8 watts per channel. And that was what the Audio Emir did for me. And I just think they were spectacular. They surprised me. I heard them at Expona, really liked them, said, wow, these are really good. And I had already reviewed the Friggs before that, and I thought they were a great $15,000 speaker. But these ones were just like, again, like the Songer, kind of realigned my priorities about what I think I want out of speakers. And you know what? I haven't consistently been a really strong advocate of horn speakers. Sometimes I find ones that I really like. These ones I loved. Absolutely loved them. Would own these in a second if I could.
And number 10.
So the greatest pair of speakers I've ever heard in my life after, I think it's been 3 years now, but these were our product of the year 3 years ago. The title for Bugatti the Royale system, which includes the 2 speakers and a controller and all the cables. So it's an entire system for $465,000. And I've heard at this point, I've heard a lot of speakers. I've heard several pairs of $1 million speakers and beyond even. For some reason, these ones seem to be the one that make me feel like I've heard something I haven't heard before. A pair of loudspeakers that gets really close to the real thing and something that gives you every bit of information, but without being fatiguing. It's just an amazing thing. And in this 10 spot, I almost just said, instead of picking the Bugatti, just all of them, all the titles, just line them up because they really have so much in common with each other. And there's such a strong family resemblance between each model that each one, everything from the new Piano Classic, for instance, or the Wimberg Amea that we just talked about, there's this level of perfection and dedication and passion to these speakers. It almost goes beyond description because it's just giving you everything you need. So you don't have to come up with adjectives all the time to describe what you're hearing. You're just at one with the music in a way. That's what it's all about, is just kind of losing yourself in the music. And Tidal does that better than anybody else. I don't think I've ever had a more engaging pair of loudspeakers in front of me as the Tidal for Bugatti speakers that I heard. I've heard several times now, but they're just unbelievable. They'll change your mind about everything about loudspeaker design.
Woo! I got to go listen to some music like right after we're done with this. I want to feel those feels.
I got to build a new system. I got a bunch of new stuff in.
When you look at this list from beginning to end, what would you say are the 1 to 2 qualities that change the most as you go from least expensive to most expensive in your mind? And this is just your take, what Marc gets from it. What do you think changes when you listen to a $4,000 speaker to a $400,000 speaker?
Usually it's scale and scope. You know, often I know Jay Gordon Holt used to talk all the time about listening to a system that can reproduce a full orchestra in all its glory and dynamics without losing anything of the size, and that being the ideal transducer. And so I think that's what you get. So as much as I love two-way monitors, it's very difficult to be able to reproduce the size of a full orchestra in your living room with a pair of two-ways or even smaller three-ways or anything. It takes a big speaker to do that. You know what? We always say bigger isn't always better. For instance, that Tidal for Bugatti Royale speaker, for me, is their most amazing speaker, but it's not their biggest. They make far larger speakers. But larger, as we know, isn't always better. But bigger, if you want that big size, nothing is going to defy, the laws of physics to make you think these little two-ways, these little LS35As. No, it's not what they're designed for. That's not the objective there. It's to reproduce the music you love the way you want to. And if you like big stuff, then you got to get big speakers. So when you're talking about cost tied into that, you have to remember that big speakers often cost more simply because they're bigger and heavier, cost more to ship them, and that has to be worked into the cost. So sometimes a really big speaker can't avoid being expensive. Sometimes a small speaker that's really heavy also can't avoid it. So you have to take these things into consideration. But for the most part, I would say the big speakers can reproduce that size and scope, and the smaller speakers usually can't. And it's a matter of you suspending disbelief in your brain about, can you scale it all down just to get the right tonality that's your desire versus the size? That's pretty much it for me.
Where does tonality rank in your most important factors? Is tonality the most important thing to you? Staging? Do you have like one kind of thing that you, when you first plug in a speaker, you're like, oh, this is a make it or break it kind of evaluator?
Well, I think tonality winds up being the most important, because think about all the joy you can really get out of listening to some of these remastered mono records. And so things like Duke Ellington Masterpieces, which is a mono recording, which you quickly forget that it's mono. It just doesn't matter because the tonality is so perfect that the instruments sound like instruments. So I think that tonality comes out in that. You can also hear like a Mint 78 shellac, and it sounds amazing because it's never been played before because they got the tonality right. So tonality is everything. Sometimes, especially if you're a person who listens to a lot of older recordings, the whole idea of imaging and sound staging, it becomes bells and whistles for a lot of people. Like, it's important if you want to feel like there are instruments, there are musicians in your living room, of course, but you can't pick that over tonality because it's just not going to be as rewarding as hearing a mono recording that has the correct tonality.
I want to ask you, because I don't think we've done this, actually. I've been asking everyone this season the same set of 5 questions. So you can only pick one. There's no right or wrong answers, but I will judge you. I forgot to mention that to the other interviewers. I will judge you, but there is no right or wrong answers.
All right.
You can pick only one of these. Mint Ellis 35A or Quad ESL 57.
Ellis 35A.
Pristine soundstage or tone.
Tone.
Height, width, or depth.
Depth.
Perfect bass or perfect treble.
Perfect treble.
That's it. You did it, Mark.
I was impressed with me right there.
Mark, thank you so much for all the help today. God bless your soul. Have a great summer out there. Summer of 26.
A summer on the lake with, what do I got? I got Burmester. I've got Esoteric. I've got possibly a Lin LP12 coming finally after all these years. I've got stuff coming. Stay tuned. It's going to be a fun summer.
I got my first real 6-string.
Did you really?
I bought it at the 5 and Dime.
Oh, yeah.
I played it till my fingers bled.
Yeah.
It was the summer of 26.
Cheers.
Later. The Occasional Podcast is a production of the Part-Time Audiophile Network, which includes parttimeaudiophile.com, The Occasional Magazine, the PTA newsletter, and audiohead.com. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The Occasional Podcast is produced and hosted by Brian Hunter, executive produced by Scott Hall at PTA Productions. The Occasional Podcast and its original associated music is monitored, mixed, and mastered on the Focal Trio 6 BE studio monitors. AI songs produced by AUDIO.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Occasional Podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.